Welcome to the Away End. I'm Daniel Alarcon.
I'm John Green.
We got a lot to talk about today, John. Yeah. So it was the World Cup qualifying playoffs, and I thought we would start with that. We're also going to do a deep dive into one of the newly qualified nations and a story from you. I have no idea what it is. And maybe if we have time, maybe a little bit of the mailbag, right? Let's start with the results. Yeah?
Yeah, let's start with the results. But shouldn't we be not Eurocentric, Daniel, and start with the intercontinental playoffs?
That is so great of you and generous. Of me. Yeah. You're so woke. All right. Sure, we can do that. I will say, in the spirit of fairness, that I watched Bolivia Suriname. To my great dismay.
It was not a great game of football.
A miserable game of football. The Suriname goalkeeper was wasting time, like in the 55th minute. A lot of like going down and faking it. Bolivia came back. They were down 1-0. They came back and scored and won. But yeah, it was not a classic, nor will it live long in memory. I did not watch Bolivia Iraq because it was it started at midnight in Buenos Aires, where I was. So I didn't get to watch it. Did you?
So I did. I did get to watch it because the Iraqi national team has a former AFC Wimbledon player, Ali Alhamadi. And I have met Ali Alhamdi on a few occasions, and I'm a huge fan of him, both as a person and as a player. And the thought that he could qualify for the World Cup and I would sleep through it was not bearable to me. So I stayed up and watched the game. And it was a significantly better game than Bolivia-Suriname, although that's a low bar to jump over. Yeah. And Ali Alhamdi scored. An AFC Wimbledon player scored in a playoff final to send his nation to the World Cup. Pretty special for me. And
That's wonderful.
Was very, Bolivia is not going to beat the allegations that they just can't play at sea level. I mean, they're a different team at 12,000 feet than they are at sea level. And they...
Well, wait, they played the first game in Mexico City, which is famously not at sea level.
Not at sea level, but also not at Bolivia level.
Not at Bolivia level, for sure. Which is why I don't know where they played the second game, but if it was at sea level, then for sure Iraq had an advantage.
At any rate, I don't know either, but Iraq looked the better team throughout the game. Bolivia had a good equalizer. For a minute, I thought that the game was going to go to extra time. And then I believe it was a kid who grew up in the United States who scored for Iraq to send them to the World Cup. And the celebrations. I mean, one of my favorite things that emerged from this round of the World Cup playoffs was the Mexican fans and the Iraqi fans singing together. Mexican, Iraqi. I'm gonna miss the translation, Daniel. It's gonna surprise you, but something like together we are brothers.
Oh, that's great. That's the next great fusion cuisine will be Iraqi Mexican, I predict.
The world's crying out for it.
Yeah, and certainly. I will say that this. I was asking our producer Kurt if we could have a sound effect, like some kind of like horn for a group of death, because I feel like like this really rounded out a group, which I think is a veritable group of death, is France, Norway, Senegal, and Iraq. I think that's actually a very tough group. So
that's a proper group of death. I mean, you've got the best striker in the world playing for Norway. You've got France, probably the best team in the world. You've got Senegal, champions of champions of Africa, arguably champions of Africa, and you've got Iraq, who are brothers with Mexico, and so they always have a chance.
Yeah, and they're brothers of Mexico. So, great. Okay, that settles that. There's a few games that I don't think we need to say much about. Although I do want to mention that we had both been pining for the presence of Jamaican fans at this coming World Cup, and we're both disappointed. Though we're happy for the Democratic Republic of Congo, sad we won't have the Reggae Boys lighting up every stadium in the United States where they play. Or Mexico,
it's a bummer, but I'm excited for DR Congo. And they've also, I mean, you could see in the celebrations in Kinshasa how much that meant to the DRC, and I'm really excited for them. And of course, they've got that great single fan who stands throughout the entire game, Daniel, and has his arm up. And he just stands very still for the full 90 minutes.
Like our most famous fan, the Statue of Liberty. Yes.
Very, very similar to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll get a visa and be able to come. He was not able to be there in real life for the playoff games in Mexico, but hopefully he'll get a visa and be able to see his team play.
Does he switch arms?
Nope. Doesn't switch arms, doesn't move a muscle.
Oh, wow.
It's very impressive. I don't think I can do it.
You know how tennis players have like one arm that's like noticeably stronger than the other one? I wonder if that happens to DR Congo's lone fan.
It has to be.
I wanted to mention, because I think this affects our American listeners, and parenthetically, I've been so happy to see so many emails we get from all over the world, not just U.S. fans, but it's kind of inspiring, that Turkey defeated Kosovo and now enters another klaxon sound effect group of death with the United States, and I think significantly complicates Mauricio Pochettino's job of getting the U.S. out of the group. It's not going to be easy. That Turkey is a tough team.
If you can't beat Paraguay and Australia, you don't deserve to make it to the last 32 of the World Cup, is my position.
I think that's true, but I think Paraguay is a tough team defensively.
I agree. I think we're in trouble as a country.
I mean, well, that is outside the scope of the away end, but yes, we're in trouble in many ways. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think Australia is better than Americans think. I think Turkey is a superior team technically than the Americans.
Oh yeah, no, I think Turkey is the favorite in that group now.
Yeah. I have nothing to say about Czechia against Denmark.
I have one thing to say.
Go for it.
Which is that's a pretty significant upset. And that group, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, Czechia, that's a pretty interesting group. Like I'm going to struggle to pick a clear favorite in that group.
Yeah. I'm excited for the Mexico-South Africa rematch. Do you remember that game? The first game of the 2010.
Yeah.
And it was a 1-1 draw.
A goal for South Africa, a goal for all of Africa.
A goal for all of Africa.
Believe was the call.
Wonderful goal, actually.
Beautiful goal.
Really beautiful goal. So, I'm excited for that game just because it'll give me sort of nostalgic vibes. Which brings us, my friend, to Sweden, Poland. Sweden, that was a great game.
Well, you've got a lot to say about that because your beloved Victor Gyökeres scored a hat trick in the first match of the playoffs and then scored the winner against Poland.
Yes, he scores when he wants, as the song goes. I predicted / manifested this. It is possibly the only good news for Arsenal in the last couple of weeks, that we have our Swedish oafish player finally scoring goals with some regularity. It was he scored the 89th minute winner, and he was very happy. He has kind of this adamantine expression. You can't really read what he's saying, but I think that was Swedish for happiness. And eliminating Poland and legendary striker Robert Lewandowski from the World Cup he's also like 47 years old, so he'll be all right.
Yeah, and I believe that means that he only made one World Cup appearance in his long and storied career, but that's still a good outcome, I would say, for a Polish striker. It's so hard to qualify out of Europe. I mean, I think that I was thinking this as I watched the Intercontinental playoffs where Jamaica did not look very good and Bolivia did not look very good. I was thinking that it is a lot easier, especially this round, because of the US, Canada, and Mexico all qualifying automatically, it's a lot easier to get to the World Cup if you're in CONCACAF or even if you're in South America than it is if you're in Europe.
Yes.
You're going to push back on this.
No, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it used to be much harder to qualify. I'm sorry. I think it used to be much harder to qualify from South America. But yeah, I mean, it's, now it's like 6 teams, 6.5 spots out of 10. It's pretty easy. Whereas, Europe, there's just so many more countries now. I mean, since the Yugoslavia broke up, and since the Soviet Union broke up, we're talking about an extra 10 countries who all have legitimate footballing pedigree, which brings us actually quite nicely to the operatic Italian tragedy of Bosnia's qualification. Since I'm going to talk about Bosnia, I want to, in my deep dive in part 2 of today's show, we should focus on this through the eyes of the Italian drama. And I just want to set it up for listeners because I'm not sure everyone is aware. Italy is 4-time World Cup winning side, 1934, 38, 82, and 2006, that has now missed out on 3 straight tournaments. John, can you tell me who was the last Italian to score at a World Cup?
No, I can tell you that Roberto Baggio missed a penalty, and otherwise they would have been a 5-time World Cup winner. Who was the last
actually
Italian?
Not true. That's actually not true. That was the final Italian kick, but there was still a Brazilian kick that would have won it. So
that's true. That's true.
Okay, right. But anyway, yes.
But if they'd won that penalty shootout, they would have been a 5-time World Cup winning team.
For sure.
And yet still they've missed out on 3 consecutive World Cups. Was it Totti?
No, I'll give you another hint, and then we'll move on. It was he played briefly for Liverpool, although that's not the English side he's most associated with.
Chiesa?
No.
He hasn't been around long enough. Who?
Mario Balotelli.
Oh, Mario Balotelli was the last person to score for Italy. Wow.
Yeah. So just some context. This is not a sudden collapse. This is a kind of a long decline. So after 2006, world champions, they sort of embody that curse of former champions because 2010, they failed to get out of the group stage. Then, it was like, it was 2 draws against global powerhouses, New Zealand and Paraguay. And then they lost to Slovenia, and that was that. Same story in 2014. The Italians beat England 2-1, and then lost to Costa Rica and Uruguay. And they and England did not get out of the group that year. So that was when they made it. And then since then, it's just been, near miss, and another one today.
Although it should be noted that in between missing these World Cups, they won the Euros. Like so when they qualify for tournaments, they tend to do very well. It's just that they've managed to not qualify for 3 consecutive World Cups. And that is, I know that you're going to say this is a long fall from grace, and it's true on some levels, right? Like the Italian league is not what it used to be, et cetera, et cetera. But like they are absolutely talented enough to qualify for the World Cup. Hard stop.
Yes. Are they better than Curacao? For sure.
They're better than Bosnia. They lost on the day because they had because their greatest enemy is within their own minds.
Oh God, guys, like put that on a t-shirt. Yeah. There and I loved this moment because it was kind of sad, and I thought that Edin Dzeko had a really good response to it. But so when Bosnia beat Wales on penalty kicks, there was a video went out, or it was someone caught a video of 2 Italian players celebrating as if Bosnia was the gimme and Wales was the tough team.
Yeah.
And it was, slightly embarrassing. One of the players who celebrated was Francesco Pio Esposito, who then went on to miss his penalty in the Bosnian shootout. Very sad. Very sad.
I hate to see somebody miss a penalty.
Yeah, I know. Because it's so unfair, because it's like, it's a lot of pressure to put on a young man's shoulders.
As we were watching that penalty shootout, actually, I was watching it with Sarah, And I said to Sarah, I don't think I could score if there was no goalie with that level of pressure on me.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
I think I would miss the goal. I don't think I could get the ball to the goal.
Yeah. I mean, I missed a penalty kick in a like Sunday league shootout, here in New York. And I was like very distraught for about 45 minutes after. Quite sad for the Italians. And I, of course, everyone's resigned. Gattuso, the manager, resigned. And now, it's not, they have a lot of work to do if they're going to not make this kind of permanent position of being, a mid-level European team as opposed to where they believe and by rights have earned, at the very top of the European game. So it's tough. My heart goes out to them.
Yeah, as you wrote in the notes, trombone triste, which means sad trombone in Italian.
Yes, that's what Google tells me. It is how you say it. I have not checked that with any Italian speakers. It's a lot to chew on, and I think it sets now all the groups, and now so we can sort of like we're legitimately now in the preparation phase for this World Cup. About 2 months out, the teams are set, the matchups are set, the stadiums are set. The groups of death, Klaxon, have been, set up, and now we can get legitimately excited for the tournament to come.
And I have to say, this round of playoffs was very exciting for me. Even Sean was watching. Sean, we really appreciate you tuning in for some high quality intercontinental playoff action. And it just reminded me of the unbelievable levels of joy and heartbreak that are involved. And we should mention some of the teams that didn't make it. It was a bad World Cup playoff for all the English-speaking nations. For Northern Ireland, Ireland, and Wales, they were all knocked out in the semifinals. And, the heartbreak, the joy, the purity of emotion, it's so hard to get any kind of pure emotion for me. Like usually, anytime I feel joy, it's a little bit mixed with anxiety. Like I just announced this new book, which is very joyful and exciting and etc. But like at the same time, it's mixed with a feeling of dread, that like people are going to read this book and judge me and judge the book. And that's so scary. But football, the emotions are so pure. They're so simple.
About your new book, I did think it was early to write a memoir about our time as hosts of the Away End, but I don't pretend to understand your creative mind, but hey, it's
well, I did. It's about two young people, which describes Daniel and I perfectly, who are experiencing sudden and unexpected fame and wild celebrity levels, which again describes Daniel and I perfectly.
Yeah, no, it's great.
But I'm really excited about it. And I think, Daniel, if I'm very careful and I let my editor know that there's just one name that needs to be added at the very end, I can squeeze your name or Sean's name into the book if you win the World Cup bet that we have.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I feel confident that I will not win because I'm terrible. I think our prognostications of this of these playoffs, really based on the literature that we most like from each country, turned out to be a terrible way to predict.
Turned out winners. To be a catastrophic way of trying to analyze football bets. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a different strategy for my World Cup bracket maker. I'm gonna go with which teams I think are better.
Very, very innovative. Very innovative. Let's take a quick break because I want to talk about that joy. And when we do a deep dive on Bosnia in just a moment, we'll be right back. All right. So we're back on the away end. John, how much do you know about the Bosnian national team?
Not much. I know how happy I was for our acquaintance and the great writer Alexander Haman when they qualified. And that's about all I know.
That's about all you know. Okay. So the first thing that you need to know is that until 1992, Bosnian players played for Yugoslavia.
Sure.
And I know enough to know that Yugoslavia was like a very good European side, that like Latin American teams were always respected a lot. And I didn't know the names of some of these players, and I want to mention a few. Striker Vahid Halilhodzik, defender Frauk Hazibejic, playmaker Ivica Osim. And I just wanted to say those names because they're fun to say.
Very impressive, Daniel.
Yeah, but Safid Sushik is the one that I was like, whoa, I wish I'd seen him play. So he played at Sarajevo and PSG. PSG, he was voted in 2010 the best player ever to play for PSG. Someone called him one of the best player that no one ever saw. I looked up his highlights on YouTube, and I highly recommend them. He reminds me kind of like a Santi Cazorla or Xavi Hernandez type. Like you could not take the ball off him. You know, this close control that was just absurd. So that I mention only to say that Bosnia has real footballing pedigree. The players that they brought to the Yugoslav national team throughout the 80s and 90s were top players. I should say 80s and early 90s. So when Yugoslavia descends into war, it breaks up obviously into several nations: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Slovenia, and I have to say, not Albania. And I want to thank one of our listeners, Andrew, who pointed out very elegantly that I misspoke a couple of episodes ago when we were talking about Albania's chances in the Intercontinental Playoff. And I incorrectly and quite ignorantly stated that Albania had been part of Yugoslavia, and that was not true. So my apologies. Okay.
And my apologies for not correcting you.
Well, you said never bet against Albania, remember? And then you didn't catch this error. So I think really you're the most responsible.
I'm really at fault, as usual.
Okay, so since 92, Bosnia plays as an independent nation. In footballing terms, it honestly hasn't gone great. Croatia obviously is the most successful of the former Yugoslavian nations. They made the 2018 final. They have kind of the most famous players. Slovenia's qualified for 2 World Cups, Serbia for 3. Bosnia nearly qualified for 2004 Euros. They missed out by a single goal to Denmark. And then in terms of the World Cup, they didn't make 2010. They lost to Portugal. And then didn't make the 2012 Euros. They qualified for 2014, but they were placed in a group with Argentina, and they finished 3rd. And they should have qualified actually for the knockout rounds that in that tournament, but Edin Dzeko scored a goal that was incorrectly called offside, and you can look up. There's a lot of videos posted by Bosnians on YouTube of the goal, with very colorful commentary about what happened and how they were robbed. They missed the 2018 World Cup, the 2020 Euros, which were played in 2021, but confusingly are still known as the Euros from 2020. And the 2022 World Cup. So when it came to qualifying for this tournament, Bosnia and Herzegovina, I should say, were drawn in Group H. Austria, Cyprus, Romania, San Marino. They finished 2nd. They drawing away to Vienna, but losing at home to the group winners, Austria. This was enough for the playoff, where they beat Wales on penalties, and then they beat Italy on penalties as well. And they thoroughly deserved it. I mean,
they did.
They were bossing Italy kind of even when Italy was playing with 11 men. Italy had a player sent off for a very dumb foul. It was a straight red, and Bosnia from that point on really dominated. They peppered the goal. Donnarumma played a great game to keep Italy ahead, but you kind of saw that it was how it was going to end, and eventually there was a goal bundled in. It was not a beauty, but they all count. And now they're through because they won in penalty kicks, and they're in a group with Canada, Qatar, and Switzerland. I want to give a special shout out to Edin Dzeko, who's 40 years old. He is the striker, kind of the most famous Bosnian player. He's a national hero, all-time leading goal scorer for the national team with 70 goals. And just for people who want to compare that, Harry Kane, who many of our listeners will have heard of, he has 78 for England. So he's like Edin Dzeko in terms of the national team is like up there with the Harry Kanes. He's also as old as time itself, and is one of those players that makes me think John, if we'd just taken better care of ourselves, we too could still be playing. He's twice as old, more than twice as old as Lamine Yamal, the Spanish superstar. So I'm happy for Bosnia, and I think they're going to be a tough team. I think that they will beat Qatar. I think they will draw Canada. Maybe lose to Switzerland. I think Switzerland's a pretty strong team. But that could be enough for a third place berth, and I think they'll be into the round of 64 or whatever it is that it's called now, round of 32. Yeah, I think I think that could happen. You
have covered the Bosnian national team brilliantly, but you have left one important detail on the floor, I think, Daniel, which is that there is a song widely sung in English by a Bosnian band that is become the song to sing around this World Cup. And the chorus is, "I am from Bosnia, take me to America. I really want to see Statue of Liberty. I can no longer wait. Take me to United States. Take me to Golden Gate. I will assimilate."
Wow.
And so like people were singing that song all over to celebrate the fact that they get to go to the United States for the 2026 World Cup.
I like that. I think that's really cute. I was in the stadium when Peru qualified for the World Cup in 2018. And after, we qualified, the celebrations began. The players came out carrying suitcases and they put on these Russian hats.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And so you had the national team that had just won. They were probably already half drunk. The stadium didn't empty for like an hour. They came back out literally with suitcases and these babushka hats, like the big furry ones. It was so funny. So, hey, it is all about the trip, who's on the plane is what we always say. And I couldn't be happier for our friend Alexander Himon and also for the nation of Bosnia. We hope they do well.
We do.
All right. So we're going to come back with a story and some mail, and let's take a quick break.
All right. Are you ready for my story, Daniel?
I'm so ready. Hit me.
My story is the life story of my aforementioned hero, Ali Al-Hamadi, the greatest player ever to play for the football club I sponsor, AFC Wimbledon, and certainly the greatest striker ever to play for them, and now an Iraqi national hero. And I wanted to tell this story because, a lot of times people, national identity is really complicated. And that's something we see during the World Cup when, for instance, if you look at the Curacao national team, it's a lot of Dutch players who were born in the Netherlands, have lived their whole life in the Netherlands, but have a Curacao parent. And sometimes you even hear people say, well, that's not really the Curacao national team, or it shouldn't be because those people are Dutch or whatever. And you hear that with Wales and Ireland and lots of countries where there's a large diaspora. And I think Ali Al-Hamadi's life story is revealing of the complexity of national identity, because if you talk to him, he has a deep, deep Scouse accent. So he is from Liverpool. He moved to Liverpool when he was 1 year old, around the same age that, if I'm not mistaken, you moved from Peru to the United States when you were very young, right? Like
3.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
3.
3 years,
okay.
3 years old, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have an accent in English at all, or you don't have, well, you do, but I don't hear the accent because it's the same accent I have.
There you go. It's like saying no one can smell their own house,
Exactly. So Ali Al-Hamadi sounds very thoroughly Liverpudlian, in the way that Steven Gerrard or Jamie Carragher do. But he is also deeply, deeply Iraqi in terms of his own sense of self. So he was born in Iraq. He was born in Maysan. And then in the very early stages of the Iraq War, he moved to Liverpool because his father, who was at the time studying to become a lawyer, was part of a peaceful protest against the regime of Saddam Hussein and was jailed as a result of being part of that protest. At the time, his wife was pregnant with Ali Al-Hamadi's younger sibling. And so when his father was released, they made their way to the UK. He initially went to Jordan, then was finally reunited with his whole family in Britain, and has lived in Britain ever since. And so I think this is typical of a lot of stories of, multinational identity. Could Ali Alhamdi play for England? Absolutely. But for him, I think it's probably more meaningful to play for Iraq from what he said publicly. And also, you've got to remember, I think Ali Alhamdi was 20 or 19 when he came to AFC Wimbledon. He was playing for Wickham. He was in League Two, the fourth division of English football. There's probably 1,200, 1,500 players above you if you're playing in League Two in England. And yet, immediately upon arriving at AFC Wimbledon, he became an absolute superstar for a very, very mediocre team. He scored 23 goals in 42 appearances. He was overwhelmingly the best player, not just on the team, but the best striker in League Two. And then he got picked up by Ipswich Town in the Championship, made his way to the Premier League because Ipswich Town got promoted to the Premier League in 2024. And by then he was a 22-year-old playing in the Premier League. He didn't play a lot in the Premier League, but he played sometimes. Then he really, really struggled. He had a really difficult period. He was training away from the rest of the team. He was training with the reserves, with the youth side. It was brutal. I suspect, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that would be a really hard experience to go through, not being able to train with your teammates and being told that you weren't part of the first team. He went on loan first to Stoke City and now is on loan at Luton Town in the third division of English soccer. And so to go, Daniel, you said a couple episodes ago, you made a great point, which is that it would be really surreal to go from playing for nothing, which Luton Town is playing for this season. They're not going to get promoted. They're not going to get relegated. They're in the third division. They're going to stay in the third division. To an unbelievably stressful, high-stakes game playing Bolivia in a one-off game for a shot to send your nation to the World Cup for the first time in 40 years.
Wow.
That's got to be a surreal shift in mindset.
And to score in that game, it's what you dreamed of your whole life.
To score in that game is what you dreamed of your whole life.
Or maybe even you wouldn't have even been able to dream of it because it felt so remote as a possibility. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a high. Oh my God.
And so he scores in that game, unbelievable high. We're talking about, imagine the getting 46 million people, making 46 million people happy.
Yeah.
What an incredible accomplishment. What a gift. What a thing, I think he scored one or two goals for Luton Town this season.
Yeah.
And he goes and he scores for his country in the biggest game they've had in his living memory.
And his father's living mememory,
and his father's living memory, probably. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And for his father, for his parents to be able to have been on a really difficult journey in their lives, having been refugees, having been welcomed first in Jordan and then in the UK, to qualifying Iraq for the World Cup is really, really special. So I just wanted to highlight his story as someone I really admire as a person and as a player. I just think so highly of him, and I every World Cup, there are people who are not going to make a bunch of headlines, who nonetheless have brought joy to their country, and he is one such person.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm happy for him. Further proof of just how much these tournaments mean to so many people around the world, and I couldn't be happier for the Iraqis to have made it, even though it came at the expense of my Bolivian brothers.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But I
That's all
tell
right.
you what, if you watched the game, you would have agreed that they did not deserve to win it.
Yeah, from what I saw in the Suriname game, that is certainly true. And, Peru, like four-time champion Italy, is just choosing to boycott this World Cup.
Yeah, just coming up.
Protesting.
And who can blame you? There's a lot to protest at the moment, Daniel.
It is a significant moral stance that countries like Italy and Bolivia and Peru are taking. Great. I love it. Let's jump into the mailbag. We have a few more minutes before you've got to go to, I'm sure, another, taped deposition or something.
No, I'm actually getting on a plane to go home. I'm visiting you from my parents' home in North Carolina.
Man.
Then I got to go. I got to go home, which I'll miss my parents, but I'm excited. I also miss Indianapolis in spring. The only time it's great to be there.
Great. I'm actually, John, going from here to London to go see the Arsenal game.
Oh, congratulations! I'm so happy for you that you get to go to that.
Yeah, I'm excited. A friend of mine, a Colombian friend, got us some, 2 tickets from another Colombian friend. And apparently they're good tickets, and so I'm very excited. Yes. So okay, let me read these. John, Daniel, Sean, and John. Having watched American sports most of my life, I love unconventional tactics. Think aggressive 4th down attempts or 2-point conversions in the NFL. What peculiar or non-traditional tactics should we look for in this World Cup? Are there specific formations or set piece designs we should watch for, and which teams are most likely to utilize them? Sincerely, Jared.
So it's, there isn't quite as much of going for it on 4th and 11 from your own 9-yard line in football as there is in football. But
right.
I do think that Arsenal loading the back post or the front post is a really interesting tactic that has worked really well for them. And it'll be interesting to see if that happens. It'll be interesting to see. My favorite moment of unconventional tactics is when the goalie comes up. That's when I experience true joy.
Yeah. There's
when
so
the
much
goalie comes up to take for a last second corner kick. That's when I stand up and get ready for the miracle to happen, which it never does.
Yeah.
But a goalie goal is the greatest thing that can happen in football.
It's one of the most unexpected. Also, the long shot from inside your own half, catching the goalie off his line is pretty great.
That's another source of great joy for me.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to answer this question. I think what I was really interested in this question is for Jared is I think something worth pointing out to newer fans is that the national teams get so little time to train. You know, the reason why Arsenal's set pieces are such a weapon is because they work on it, 5 times a week on the training grounds. Whereas the national teams, the best players from any given country who might be playing in 10 different leagues come together and they have time to, do a little bit of tactics. They probably have a style, like the Spanish team has a style. So everyone sort of knows what the kind of how we play. But then there just isn't as much time for the kinds of intricate, passing formations and movements. When you watch a team that's well drilled, like a Barcelona, like a Real Madrid, well, less so Madrid, but like a Man City, these teams, the players know intuitively where their teammates are going to be because, the managers have time to sort of inculcate these patterns of play into the squad. You don't have that. You just don't have that. And so what you're going to see at the World Cup is a lot less about tactics and a lot more sort of like, sounds really corny, but it's actually true. I think who wants it more, which is like what your, little league peewee soccer coach used to say to, in his halftime talk while you were like sucking on orange slices. But I think it's actually kind of true. Like there's just not enough time to have these kind of really intricate things that Jared's asking for. And I think that's worth mentioning. It's going to be like, there will be kind of more individual moments of brilliance that will define games as opposed to, a team necessarily overpowering another team tactically. What you will see, I think there are definitely teams where you can tell the basic level of understanding of where we move is higher than others. right?
Yeah.
And those teams will win,
They'll usually win. But occasionally something weird will happen.
Yeah, like when Switzerland beat Spain in the first game of the 2010 World Cup, and then Spain went on to win.
Or when New Zealand held Italy to a goalless draw.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, exactly. It happens. So, John, Ryan asks the following, based on his understanding of the Bosnia-Italy playoff, where the final kick was converted by Esmir Bajratevic. I'm sure I pronounced that perfectly. Who actually is American by birth, but Bosnian by heritage, plays in Milwaukee. He says, assuming you are both 18 and have promising international careers ahead of you, John, if you could choose the Netherlands or some other country from your background, would anything make you consider choosing them over Team USA? Daniel, is there any hypothetical that would lead you to play for the U.S. over Peru? More World Cup appearances, raising your profile for the MLS or Europe, starting versus riding the bench, more money, etc. Thanks for the show.
So I am, by heritage, I believe, qualified to play for Ireland. And I still could, Daniel. It's not out of the question. I'm only 48.
No, so it's all ahead of you.
It's all the good stuff and the bad stuff is all in front of me, buddy. I would almost certainly want to play for the United States because that's the team that I grew up rooting for. I, of course, have a soft spot for Ireland. My dad is a fan of the Irish national team, all that stuff. But I just don't see myself playing for Ireland. I think the way that I would maybe play for Ireland if I were 18 and really talented is if I thought that was the place where I would end up being able to play. Like Ali Alhamdi is not going to be able to play for England, but he can play for Iraq. I think he'd probably rather play for Iraq as it happens, but that's a factor as well, right? So I think that in that sense, I might want to play for Ireland because it might be easier to make the national team. Although I'm not sure that that's true in the case of Ireland.
There's so many hypotheticals here. Like you, I'm beginning to think that I'm never going to make it as a professional footballer.
Yeah. It's a devastating realization.
It's sort of dawning on me that
it's a slow dawn, though. It's like Alaska in winter.
Yeah, I just can't imagine a situation in which I would choose the United States over Peru, just because playing for Peru would be having the opportunity to make more than 30 million people extremely happy, and it would it's almost for personal, almost selfish reasons. The joy it would give me to give them joy would be so great and overwhelming that I would choose Peru 1,000 times.
Sean, are you playing for the Italian national team or the American national team?
I would play for the US, I think, because I would want to give them a chance at success to finally bring one home. And if I was on,
you might be the missing link.
Based on our high school experience, you would be a game-changing athletic asset to the United States of America. You would make Christian Pulisic look like ordinary.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be coming from my strong tennis background, not my strong soccer background. But there's a lot of parallels there. I think there's got to be some stat where the amount of miles you run in a 5-set tennis match has to equal the amount of miles you would run in a soccer match. Someone needs to look that up. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Pretty similar,
but I think it's pretty similar.
I mean, you were very fit in high school. It's just that also you and I also made bad choices.
And just, if there's any wisdom we can impart on the younger generation, as don't make bad choices. And then
if there's any wisdom we can impart upon the younger generation, I think it's this: if you want to be a professional athlete, don't smoke.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I want to end with one question I think is really important. John, you're the U.S. men's national team expert here. So Dan K asks, international friendlies have no real bearing on the national team's position ahead of the World Cup, and it makes sense strategically to protect players for club football, especially in a title race. I can also see the argument that national team managers often use these games to develop tactics and build discipline within the squad. Sorry. Okay, actually, I'm gonna let's start this over. So I'm actually, John, we have one last question I think is interesting, and I'm gonna actually sort of build off this question that Dan K asked about international friendlies. He mentions that international friendlies have no real bearing on anything in terms of standings, but it's kind of this situation. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing and extrapolating from Dan's question. But if you win, no one cares. Yeah. And if you lose, there's like this rending of garments, and it's like this huge problem. And we saw big drama around England's loss to Japan, and a kind of lackluster draw, and then panic buttons among people who follow the U.S. men's national team because of the two losses that we had, specifically the Belgium game, which was a real pasting that the Gringos got. So, what's your take on do these international friendlies matter?
They matter in two senses. They matter in terms of building confidence, which I think is surprisingly important in football. Like, we're currently seeing a player like Mo Salah, who's one of the best players in the world, go through a crisis of confidence, and we're seeing what it does to the player and to the team that he plays for. They also matter in the sense that they give you a sense of where you're at. And I think that losing to Portugal and Belgium, and losing to Belgium by a very wide margin in a game where, it must be said, the U.S. did not look very good, gives us a sense of where they're at. It's true that you're also trying to figure out a bunch of things, but so is Belgium, right? Belgium isn't necessarily playing their best 11. And the United States, as I said in our deep dive about the U.S. men's national team, has to acknowledge that it is not a footballing power right now. In many ways, the national team is better than it's ever been. And yet it's also true that it's not that good. It's not as good as Portugal. It's not as good as Belgium. And that indicates to me that, making it to the last 16 of the World Cup would be a pretty good outcome for the U.S. men's national team. And having expectations that are higher than that, it'd be great if that happened. And we all hope it does, or at least I hope it does. But that's not what's most likely to happen. What's most likely to happen is that we're going to struggle in our friendly against Senegal, and we're going to struggle in our friendly against Germany, and then we're going to play some teams that hopefully are not quite as good as us in the first round of the World Cup, and we're going to make it to the knockout rounds. But that isn't the same thing as being favorites to win the World Cup, which we just aren't.
Or even contenders. Yeah.
Or even contenders in a meaningful way. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's a difficult thing for Americans to accept, Daniel, because we're used to being very, very good at almost all sports.
Yes. Especially the ones we invented. We're quite good at those.
Yeah. Basketball, baseball. Yeah.
Yeah. American football, no one can touch us.
No one can even come close to us in American football.
Yeah. All right. Let's end there. And we're going to have to figure out when we record the next episode. But hopefully a week from today, after I get back from London. John, great seeing you. Sean, wonderful to see you. Thanks to Kurt and to Bahid. Congratulations, Bahid.
Bahid just got engaged. Congratulations.
Yeah. Our guest producers today. And we will catch up again. Thanks for listening, guys. As always, you can hit us at awayendpod@gmail.com. Thanks.